Okay, so I'm going to continue now and tell you guys about the mesh tool. Before I do that, something I forgot to tell in my last demo video was if you create a custom color and say that that's something that you know that you're going to use again, you can make your own swatch of it. And so when you have whatever object it is that color, you can click on this little button right here. It says New Swatch. You can, it'll tell you kind of the recipe of like how it's composed down here, and then you can name it. So like I might call this burnt orange. And then you see it shows up right there in with your normal swatches. So something cool. Okay, so what I want to tell you guys now is about the mesh tool. And there's two ways that you can apply a mesh to it. A mesh is going to be able to allow you to kind of shade with a gradient when you have a shape, or play around with things in abstract ways as well. So one way is going up to Object, Create Gradient Mesh, and then you have some options. So we have the number of rows and columns that go into this, and you'll see that it automatically creates a darker point in the middle here because I have this set to its appearance to the edge. Whereas if I go to the center, it'll do something different. Now this highlight isn't very extreme because I have it set at 50. If I were to set that up to 100, you would see that you get that really bright point along with the dark points at the end. Flat is just going to give you a flat shape. So again, to the center or to the edge. So now what you can do with this, say that you were going to shade it. If you grab your direct select tool, now you can go and you can select any of these anchor points to change the color. So, and it'll kind of like gradually meld into the next one. So here, obviously, I'm going for something a little bit more abstract. Another great thing that you can do is if you hold down the Shift key while you grab these, you can grab multiple anchor points, like so. You can also take these. All of these are going to have their own handlebars as well, which means that you can start to adjust the shape. And then when you do it on the inside and it doesn't, take away from that outer edge of that circle there, you can really start to get funky with the way that those colors blend into each other. Any good ideas on where this would be useful? What do you guys think?
I don't know, like that moon earlier, if you're trying to make something like that.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you, you saw my little, I was practicing these tools in my prep hour here. So, starting to look interesting. Over here is a sphere that I took and I shaded it to make it look as though it has a light source probably coming from this direction where I have my my kind of outline shade, the core shadow, and then the reflection along the bottom there. Now, something that I can add on here to really make it nice is if I were to, oops, I have both of those selected, that's why I did that. To take this and maybe now I'll again add a gradient mesh, but this time, let's see, I gotta look. Oh, I actually want it to go to the edge. Highlight that. And now if I put this behind it, send to the back, now I start to have my shadow that happens on there as well. So you can use this kind of technique to bring shadows into the work that you do as well. What was the other? Oh, the other way I wanted to show you that this is done is there's this little tool right here. It's a mesh tool. Now, if I click on this shape, it's just going to add an anchor point along with the contour kind of path lines there that would define that shape. You'll notice as I hover over this, this is a bad color to be able to see it. Let me change the color once. Oops. Not that way. I want like a yellow. There we go. Now I'll bring this. Okay. You guys see how there's that little plus sign on my cursor there? Okay. Now if I hold down the Alt key and I hover over an anchor point, that's a minus sign. So now I can go in here and I can modify, say that I start to go in here and oops, I didn't like that one either. And I'm starting to notice that I have too many. Something I see a lot of kids do is when they play around with this, they almost put in too many. So then if you're going to go and you're going to try to do a shading like this, it starts to get too complex and it almost becomes too like boxy or pixelated, like it's attached to that grid as you change the colors so that you don't get that nice even shading sort of. And so you might need to come back in here and adjust how many of these you actually have to make for a good effect. So now to put some of these tools together that I just talked about, I have this sphere that I made here, and if I grab a couple of these anchor points, anyone remember what the shortcut key is? Shift, yep, to grab multiple ones. Now I can grab, use my eyedropper tool to get in there. I don't know why that one's not changing. Maybe I have multiple ones there. I'll come back to that and figure it out. And then now I can work on, I kind of have this like yellow, orange kind of going on there. Get that. So it's a way that you can apply color from a source picture into what you're doing. Now, I could continue to work on that, but I don't want to spend your time watching me do that. But does that kind of make sense how that works? Source picture along with what you're doing? Okay, cool. So let's see if there's anything else I wanted to show you. That's the mesh tool. Again, object, oh, it has to be selected. Object, it already has a gradient mesh on it. Let me try that again. Object, create gradient mesh, or just create your own with the gradient mesh tool right there. So, all right, why don't you take some time and practice that.